Who am I speaking with here? Who's who?
Manny Mello.
Are you a DJ?
No, that's my real name.
All right, and you?
I'm Edward Medallion. You may or may not see me on the news over the past 3-4 years concerning the J6 protests, you know. And we're here, back out here at the Beverly Hills Freedom Rally, just spreading, you know, the positive America First message here among, like, the most liberal part of Los Angeles.
We're in Westwood.
Right today. In Westwood, yeah.
By UCLA. This is UCLA campus.
Yeah, so we get a lot of we get a lot of hate, but we also get a lot of love. Surprisingly, you know, there's a lot of more conservatives, but they're afraid, so they don't speak out as much. Then when we come by, you know, they get very happy and they, you know, cheer us on.
Did you march? Did you attend the Beverly Hills Freedom Rally before January 6th?
Yeah. So I got my start in activism like in 2018 with Young Americans for Liberty. And then, when COVID happened, essentially there was like, Save Our Children rallies and then Beverly Hills Freedom Rally. Those were basically my first rallies I started coming to and, yeah, doing activism for years before January 6th.
Right. What's your profession?
So before I was, doing cabinetry. And right now, I'm kind of doing some things here and there for the local campaigns that are here in California. But I'm also, well, I have a eBay store and Amazon store that I work with. Yeah.
But your professional career was interrupted, when?
Yes. So like COVID at first, and then I was getting back into it, and then they arrested me. So like, so between January 6th and I was raided on April 1st, like April Fool's Day of
2021.
Yeah, so I was getting back to working, and then they came and they raided me, and then I basically had to focus all my energy on fighting my case. Really. Yeah.
And
Fool's Day too. Yeah, it's crazy.
yeah, man, were you there
I
too?
got raided on April Fool's Day. I thought it was a joke, you know? But then I knew it was serious. You know, they basically grabbed me by my hands and feet and slammed my face on my staircase, and my eyes was bleeding.
Who did?
The FBI.
They came to your house?
Yeah.
What time of day?
Oh, like 4 in the morning or something like that.
Yep.
They raided all of us at the same time. Crazy.
You're not a Democrat. You're not.
And yeah, my eye was bleeding for a whole week. You know, I showed my lawyer the pictures and all that, and he was like, it's the FBI. It's going to be really hard to go after them, but you know.
And what were they arresting you for?
They didn't arrest me. Like they didn't.
Well, they took you in.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
They just, you know, kind of tortured me, you know, because they wanted to treat me like a terrorist. So it is what it is.
And they questioned him and they realized they really had nothing on him.
Yeah. They saw, okay, this guy's just a peaceful protester, you know. So, you know. The standard.
Were you there on January 6th?
Yeah, I was there. I didn't go in, but I was there. It was a crazy day, you know. It was just as crazy outside as it was inside, actually.
But didn't they have the information? Didn't they have closed circuit TV footage of you not being inside there?
Well, yeah, they knew I wasn't in there. Like, they didn't have any pictures.
So why did they book you?
They didn't book me.
Oh, they didn't?
No.
They just interrogated.
They just interrogated.
Yeah.
But I didn't have.
They roughed him up. They made sure they, you know, they punished him with the process before letting him go. That's what they do.
I cooperated 100%.
Yeah.
They took my computers, my phones. They never gave it back. You know,
Still
no
not.
charges, nothing. They still have all.
Since 2021.
Since 2021, yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, they still have my computer. You know, I've got relief finally. I still have my computer and all my stuff.
They still have.
Yeah, they didn't give it back. I don't know why. I don't know that there's nothing on there.
I stopped trying to get it back because, you know, I was paying so much money for my lawyer. And at one point I was like, you know what? At this point I could just buy another computer. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to waste my whole life trying to get that shit back. I don't really care for it.
They try to make sure that every little process that they do is part of the punishment, because they know that really underneath it all, there's not really any crime.
Yeah.
Especially not like federal crimes. But they manufactured it, they ran with it, they pushed it until I'm pretty sure they knew they were going to lose in the Supreme Court, and they did it anyway, just to punish us with the process. And finally, I had to spend a year in jail fighting my case, and then I finally won, and they released me thanks to the Supreme Court. These people, they all graduated law school. They knew the 1512 charge was bogus, but they did it anyway just to punish us for as long as they could.
Was your case brought up before district courts in D.C.?
Yeah. So, I actually opted for a bench trial, which is where the judge decides your case. Because I figured the jury and the D.C. jury would be biased, which they are. They're like 90% Democrat. But she was a Democrat appointee as well, Amy Berman Jackson. She's actually, it's very ironic. She's the one who granted Bill Clinton immunity for the Clinton Sox case when he took classified documents.
Oh, wow.
Which is what they're trying to charge Trump for, which is kind of funny. But yeah, she's a partisan judge, so she found me guilty on the bogus charges that were overturned.
So wasn't it until the Supreme Court decision that you were released?
Yeah, so the Fisher decision was, the Supreme Court stated that the obstruction of an official proceeding is only supposed to be charged when somebody tries to tamper with evidence or otherwise try to destroy evidence in any other way that's going to be used in an official proceeding. But in my case, the government had already shot themselves in the foot because they had argued that they acknowledged that I had not, in fact, tried to destroy any evidence or tamper with any evidence, that the way I supposedly caused an obstruction of the proceeding is by causing it to be delayed. My presence was delaying the proceeding, and therefore I obstructed it, which that argument in and of itself doesn't make sense either, because when I arrived there after Trump's speech, the proceeding had already been rescheduled for 7 p.m. and everyone had been evacuated already. So my presence did not change the time where they resumed the proceeding. They resumed at 7. So I didn't cause it to be delayed past 7. So not only that argument didn't make sense, the Supreme Court agreed that it was a bogus argument to begin with.
So when did you get out?
September 17th.
How long did you spend in prison?
11 months and 2 weeks. At 5 different prisons.
So 5 different prisons.
Yeah. So she remanded me from the courtroom straight to the DC jail, which is where the J6 cell block is, where it's all J6 people in that cell block. And the reason they did do that is because they put us in protective custody over there, which is nonsense, because they argue, that there's going to be fights with other inmates. There wouldn't be. Like, when I've been to other places, all the inmates, the vast majority of inmates, they love us. And they're conservative, Trump supported, the majority of inmates, actually.
Of all races?
Yeah. Even Hispanics, you'd be surprised. Some of the most strong Trump supporters I met were Hispanics in prison, Mexican. And so, but yeah, I went from DC to Philadelphia. So I was in DC for a month. I was in Philadelphia for 2 months. And then they moved me to Oklahoma. So I flew on Con Air.
Wow.
Where they shackle you and they have you over the belly chain and you're, eating meals on the plane with your, and you're all chained up, which is like dehumanizing.
Yeah.
And then they flew me to Oklahoma, which was actually probably one of the best jails because it's like a private federal contract. So they have the best quality. So, the left will try to argue that the evil prisons are the private prisons, and but actually the private prisons have the best standards and the most respectful COs. It's the federal prisons that are the least, that are like the worst, most abusive COs, worst food and shitty commissary. And so, yeah, I went from Oklahoma and then to Victorville, FCI Victorville, which they call Victimville because there's so many people that get stabbed over there. And then I was there for 3 weeks and then they moved me to, USP Lompoc. And Lompoc, another little factoid about that. So USP Lompoc.
Let's go this one.
Used to be a high security penitentiary. So they have so it has 3 facilities. They had the high security penitentiary, USP. It had the actual low custody facility. And then they have a prison camp, which is like very, very low security, minimum security. So when I was going for my trial, the USP had been downgraded to a medium security. And then by the time I was done with my trial, they had somehow managed to get that USP downgraded to a low security facility, but the building was exactly the same. So they had electronic doors, they had metal detectors everywhere, controlled movements, and the cell size was designed for 1 person.
And how many were in there?
And they were stuffing 2 people in each cell. And the cells were 6 foot by 9 foot. So you basically didn't have any room to stand with people. It was like tiny. So the USP Lompoc has like the most abusive conditions that I've ever seen out of all the other jails. And the SEALs are very abusive.
Yeah. Were you with other January 6th prisoners in any of those places?
Yeah. So when I went to Philly, I was with Shane Jenkins and Ethan Nordine, who are also like prominent activists. And yeah, Ethan got like 18 years, which is ridiculous. And Shane, I think, got like 9, which is ridiculous also. But yeah, great guys. And then when I finally got to Lompoc, I was with Jeffrey Brown and Mark Brew and George Riley. George Riley's hilarious. He's very outspoken. He's a Native American guy. But yeah, I love George.
So was January 6th an insurrection?
No, not even close. No one, even for all the bogus charges that they've applied on people, they've never charged anybody with insurrection because they know there's no possible way to even argue that. So,
right, what was the objective of going in on of protesting in the first place? And then even for people who went into the Capitol, what was the objective? Yeah, so because you went in briefly.
Yeah, I think it's a mixed bag for sure. So for example, in my case, my whole plan was to go see Trump speak. And we were planning for Antifa to counter protest against us because in December, there was Stop the Steal rallies and Antifa and Proud Boys were fighting at night. And four Proud Boys got stabbed by Antifa in December. So we thought, okay, if we're going to go see Trump speak, Antifa's going to counter protest at night and we're going to have to defend ourselves. So we brought some weaponry, but all that stuff stayed in the Airbnb. And the Airbnb was in Virginia. So we never brought any weapons into DC. And all the people that testified said the same thing because that is the truth. And you can see in the videos as well, none of us have any weapons. And then so, our plan was to go see Trump speak. And it was his idea to go to the Capitol. But he said, let's go peacefully and patriotically. So we went peacefully and patriotically.
Yeah.
But when we got there, so while we were walking over there, I already saw people that were dressed in black, like pushing their way through the crowd to try to get to the front. And that made me very suspicious. Yeah. And then when we got there, we saw at the front line, there was people that were fighting with the police and agitating and people that were breaking the windows. So I worked my way through the crowd and I got to that little group that was breaking windows and the crowd was already chanting Antifa, Antifa, Antifa at them. And they disagreed with these people breaking the windows, but they were unarmed because all of us had to go through Secret Service, pat downs in order to get to Trump's speech. So none of us had weapons. By the time we got there was these guys already there with weapons, breaking the windows and fighting with the police. So people were afraid to stop them because we were unarmed. They were armed. But I tried to disarm one of the people that were breaking the window, and I stopped him, and I had him in a little like chokehold. And then his little group of agitators right there, they all like attacked me, and they took my mask off and my hat off, and they were shoving me. And that's when I tried to de-escalate with them verbally. And
can you hold that stick for him?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, all right.
But there was
and you can hold this.
Yeah. So there was this other guy. I call him Sledgehammer Guy. He has a podcast called Lost Boys Podcast, if you look it up. But he was breaking the window. Prior to when I got there, he was breaking the window with a sledgehammer. I saw from a distance. And the other Trump supporters had detained him, and they detained him and they took his sledgehammer away. And as I was walking past to go towards that window, I saw him. They had him hemmed up by his hands and legs. And I told him, put his hat on. I saw his hat was hanging out of his pocket. And they put his hat on and it was like a beret, like a French style beret, And I'm like, okay, this guy, this guy's a French modernist, postmodernist.
Caitlin. Yeah.
Antifa guy, for sure. He's not a patriot.
Yeah, you'll lead us across, right? You won't let any cars hit me. Okay.
Yeah.
Could you walk in front of me? Okay.
So I knew that this guy was an agitator even before I got to the window when I heard them chanting Antifa.
Slow down.
And this guy, okay,
admitted it too.
Yeah, he admitted
So
hate to do that shit.
yeah, there's a video on YouTube. If you look it up, it's called Edward Battalion Disarms Capitol Window Breaker. At the end of that video, you'll see there's a clip that they're able to find the InfoWars at that time. I did an interview with InfoWars telling them all of this. At the end of that clip, you'll see there's a video of this guy admitting that he was paid to protest and that he got caught.
Oh.
And he's like, I can't tell you guys who it is. It's an organized effort. And
Didn't get charged either.
he didn't get charged. And that's the exact guy that I saw breaking the window with a sledgehammer that he got caught. And he admits that he tried and he failed and he got caught. And he was never charged, obviously, because he's part of that effort to infiltrate, agitate,
Right.
and then, agent provocateur. And then some people have a knee-jerk reaction to that and saying, oh, well, it's not possible. Like, there was no feds over there. Well, here's a couple of facts. So first of all, if you remember Occupy Wall Street, okay, if you look up Occupy Wall Street feds, you'll see that indeed, it's mainstream articles. The feds infiltrated Occupy Wall Street. And if you look at the videos, you'll see that people in Black Bloc that come in and they start destroying the bank.
Free fish taco, brother.
Sure, thank you, sir.
Hope you tell them, check us out.
All right. And so they, these Black Bloc agent provocateurs that showed up to Occupy Wall Street, they start breaking the bank windows, setting trash cans on fire. And then that allowed the police to shut down the protest as an unlawful protest. And they started shutting them down. That famous video of the officer pepper spraying people on the ground.
Yeah.
He was able to do that because of the infiltrators, the Black Bloc agitators, starting the violence
Right.
with police. And so that's the modus operandi. If there's a peaceful protest that is threatening their power in some way or their narrative, they send their infiltrators in, turn it violent, and then the police will shut down that protest. That's how it works. So they did the same thing to January 6th. And when Chris Wray was asked multiple times about it in Congress by Ted Cruz, when he was in the Senate, and then several Congress people when he was in Congress, Chris Wray, the FBI director, they asked him, was there any undercover FBI agents at the Capitol on January 6th? Oh, I can't answer that question. Okay. Was there any FBI agents that were involved in violence at the Capitol January 6th? Oh, I can't answer that question. And he's like, okay. So was there any undercover FBI agents involved in violence against the police on January 6th? And Chris Wray goes, I can't answer that question. What do you mean? You mean the answer, if it's a no, should be no. You know, he should easily be able to say no, but he couldn't, which means yes.
Right. Did the Democrat administration in Washington torture prisoners with the hopes of getting to elicit a confession rather than win in court?
Yes. So for the first 2 years after they had first arrested people, and the DC jail conditions were horrific. So they were using the COVID excuse, and the COVID pretty much was already over, and they were using that as an excuse to put people on 23-1.
You can carry this.
Oh yeah, to put people on 23-hour lockdown.
Oh,
And basically not necessarily solitary confinement, because they can only do that if you're in a psychiatric hold, but they would put you in lockdown. And the conditions in DC jail were horrible. So they were drinking brown water, which my buddy John knows. He exposed that. And I can confirm, because when I was in the DC quarantine, there was brown water, absolutely, coming out of the faucets. But yeah, so they kept people in confinement, and they made crazy ass would say, oh, the charges are bullshit. But because it's Trump, obviously saying, he's a felon.
yeah.
I thought you guys you were all cops are bastards. Now all of a sudden you're making fun of people who are charged with felonies. Disgusting. They have no principles. So
The torture?
yeah. In the DC jail was for sure. And after I left, there was still there was a guy that they beat up.
Some guy lost his eye.
Yeah. So there's certain COs that hate us, that are very abusive. And,
What's a CO?
correctional officer.
Did the corrections officer set you up to be beat up by other prisoners?
No. So that's a whole myth, that this idea that the prisoners would beat us up, because
the vast majority are Trump supporters, which people don't realize. A lot of people don't know that. Is the vast majority of federal prisoners, I can say for sure, 100% are conservative Trump supporters. Well, they're in a lot of ways are actually more conservative, more aggressively conservative than we are. Like, they're against gay marriage. They're like completely against trans, like completely. They are,
but what about the racial divides? Weren't most of
they're racially, yeah. So
most of the January 6th people were white, weren't they?
Yeah, but we have a lot of people who are not. We have several Jewish inmates, Hispanic, like my co-defendant is Hispanic, DJ Rodriguez. And we have multiple, black, defendants, like Enrique Tarrio is the leader of the Proud Boys. He's Afro-Cuban. And they gave him 22 years and he wasn't even there. Just because he's the leader of the Proud Boys and they're evil, they gave him 22 years. But yeah, we're racially diverse, but yeah, the majority are white.
The COs did not try to set you up to get hurt in jail?
No, they didn't do that. Again, most of the COs, like, depending on the place. So, like, okay, DC, it was like 50-50. There was like Democrat 50-50 and Trump supporting 50-50 COs. Philly was mostly Trump supporting COs. Couple of bad apples that were abusive. Oklahoma was like completely Trump supporting. They were like super respectful, nice. Victorville was again 50-50. Lompoc was majority Democrat, and they were abusive themselves. All of us inmates, we got along. Even the ones, there's racial division, like there has to be. It's like prison rules, prison politics. So the Mexicans have to be with the Mexicans, blacks have to be with blacks, whites have to be with whites, but we intermingle too. Yeah. And we're all like cool with each other. But the COs were super abusive. Like, they were mean. There was like a handful of good COs at Lompoc that were like, not trying to get us in trouble for every little thing, So yeah, it's a mixed bag for sure. There's bad and good in government everywhere.
People on both sides.
Yeah, so it's a message to Republicans. Don't be afraid of this idea of letting felons vote, because I'm telling you, the majority of felons are conservative. They're religious. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, they're religious. They already know about politics in a sense because of prison. So due to prison so they kind of translates a little bit to actual politics.
Okay. So the way that fellow, he was convinced that President Trump is guilty of felonies. The public is convinced that January 6th people who were trying to interfere with a political process of the electoral votes. Do you consider yourselves political prisoners?
Absolutely. It's by definition, if you're arrested for an act that was political in nature, you are a political prisoner. Now, if you took guns, let's say, and you started shooting at politicians who are innocent, you're the scumbag, But and you're still a political prisoner, woo! But you deserve being punished because you committed an evil act against innocent people. But that would require first of all, politicians to be innocent, which is very rare. But so in our case, nobody brought guns because like I said, we thought we were going to see Trump speak, and he had the idea. Okay, well, let's peacefully, patriotically march over to the Capitol, which is what we did. And then there was already agitators over there agitating like they do to allow the police to attack everybody. And then so the people that fought back that were actual Trump supporters, they got hit and blamed for everything, like my co-defendant, DJ.
Do you feel let down by the Republicans that they didn't do more protesting on your behalf?
In a sense, yeah. So like when I first, so what happens, like, for example, with the left-wing protests, they do so many riots that it's hard to keep track. Yeah. So it's a diffusion of responsibility. In our case, my first immediate thought going home was like, we need Republicans to rise up, like, and protest everywhere. So they're not able to just target J6 and say, and hyper focus on it. So there'll be a diffusion of it. But yeah, so there was some people that were actual Trump supporters that fell into that mob mentality with agitators and, were fighting with police. but they weren't the ones that ever initiated those encounters. You can see, I mean, if you watch the videos, you can see the whole process of how it played out. So at like 9 a.m., 10 a.m., there was people like setting up their stages and stuff around the Capitol, like Alex Jones and stuff. He was setting up for his speech near the Capitol. That was like the first wave of people that arrived were peaceful, like, related to certain speakers. And then around 11 to 12 p.m., well, 11 a.m. to noon to 1 o'clock, you had these agitators arrive with weapons and started fighting with the police in handfuls of groups, mostly dressed in black. And then Trump's actual crowd, or the vast majority of us, like that whole like 100,000 person crowd, arrived at 2:30 p.m. Woo! Yeah, baby. Sorry, I hope that wasn't too loud. So around 2:30 p.m. is when we arrived, unarmed, and fell into essentially this trap that the agitators had set. Now, some of the agitators are probably ideological in nature. So, for example, John Sullivan, who leads a group called Insurrection USA, and he's an Antifa. It's part of Antifa, which he is self-admitted, and he works for CNN. And him and his CNN buddy, Jan6'ers, and this other dude that looked like a BLM guy, were inside the rotunda talking about how they did it and they were successful in whatever they were doing. And he talks about later in an interview that he had fake Trump gear to blend in and all this. So that's John Sullivan. There's a lot more on him too. If at that video I mentioned earlier, Edward Badalian disarms Capitol window breaker. If you go on that channel, the Andrew Jackson channel, you'll see that interview of John Sullivan admitting a lot of stuff about how, well, his father, I think, might be a Fed, and then he himself is an actual like Antifa agitator. So they charged him, but like slap on the wrist charges.
Oh, that Solomon guy?
Yeah.
We were just talking about that guy. He was telling people like, oh, we got to burn it down and all that. He was like, He was the guy who led like the first group of people in there with Ashley Babbitt and all that. Yeah,
he's the one who got the video of Ashley Babbitt being shot.
He got Ashley Babbitt killed, basically.
Yeah.
Because he's, right? Oh yeah, he was the guy who led the first group of people that went into the Capitol. And then it turned out he was an Antifa activist, and he sold his footage to CNN for like thousands of dollars or some shit, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So, would you say that there was enough evidence of cheating in the way the 2020 election was done then that your claims were justified?
So this is what I said on the stand, and the prosecution didn't even try to refute it. And so what I said was, so on Joe Rogan's podcast, Mark Zuckerberg said that the FBI came to him and told him that the Hunter Biden laptop story was Russian disinformation.
I love that they told me to take the clock shot.
So I told him, I'm like, Mark Zuckerberg admitted that the FBI came to him and told him that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian misinformation, and he started shadow banning it, and in some cases actually banning it. Like, even to the point where you couldn't message someone in your private messages, and it was... He apologized, but the damage is already done.
They're still doing censorship even still today.
Absolutely.
Weeks before the 2021 election, 24 election. Now, if there are also voting irregularities, what would you recommend that the public who feel defrauded, diluted out of their votes do this time differently than you did last time?
So the only thing we can really do is like Trump said, too big to rig. But you gotta get involved in election. Yeah, you gotta get involved in the actual election process. Like, you gotta try to become election workers. They won't let me do that. Like, I do. I make flyers. I make logos. I get involved in grassroots activism as much as I can, handing out stuff, putting up signs. But you gotta do that. Plus, you gotta try to work in the election system too. You gotta be a poll worker, poll watcher, register people to vote. That's the only thing we can do. We got to get involved as much as possible on the grassroots level. If you have money, if you can make a business out of it or something, like, do that, whatever it takes. But it's all about getting out the vote. That's the only thing we can really do. But yeah, like I was saying, I didn't bring up the fact like Dominion systems and Smartmatic and the fact that the machines were connected to the internet.
We hang out here. Look at
Yeah.
the sun is going to get bright.
Yeah.
I want to get you guys so and some. Let's go stand in the shade.
Yeah, I didn't bring up Dominion or Smartmatic or anything like that when, even though the machines were able to be they had the access to the internet, which was proven at various congressional hearings and state congressional hearings, state assembly hearings. But I didn't bring up that. What I was talking about was the Hunter Biden laptop, because that's all we really need to prove that there was enough fraud to, overturn the election. And it's worse. The Hunter Biden laptop situation is worse because it's the government that did it, the FBI and CIA that did it. So they threatened Mark Zuckerberg and he banned it. And then out of the Twitter files, it came out that on Twitter, Twitter actually had FBI agents working at Twitter that were specifically, going around and banning the Hunter Biden laptop story, the New York Post story about the Hunter Biden laptop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why was, what was it about the Hunter laptop, that the news of suppressing that you consider to be election interference?
Right. Okay. And so if you look at exit polls, like the Media Research Center's exit poll, and there's other ones too, and they asked the question, would you still have voted for Joe Biden if you knew about the Hunter Biden laptop story? And depending on the poll, it's 10 to 15% of people said that they would not have voted for Biden if they knew that it was real, that it wasn't Russian disinformation. So that translates to 8 to 16 million votes, 10 to 15%. So that's way more than the margin of victory. So let's assume even those people were lying or whatever. Right. Let's say it was only 1% of the people so that would still be 80,000 to 160,000 people.
But how about the issues of software or double counting, paper ballots?
Yeah, so I know a lot about this. I just didn't bring it up in my trial, but for sure. In Dr. Shiva Ayadurai's case that he actually had brought against the Massachusetts GOP, which is why the case wasn't thrown out based off lack of standing. Now, none of the cases were thrown out for lack of evidence. There's plenty of evidence. They just used this lack of standing thing. But since Shiva was suing the Massachusetts GOP, the trial actually went to discovery. And they discovered, first of all, that Twitter portal, that the government has a portal in Twitter. This is before Elon Musk bought it. That the government officials have a portal in Twitter where they can go through people's posts and mark things that they want to be censored. But then also he discovered in his trial that the voting machines, they don't count votes in whole numbers. They count votes in decimals. So the reason that they have that feature is for homeowner association elections. If someone has more of a stake or whatever, they're supposed to have a larger vote. So so one person's vote counts for 1.5 or 2. Yeah. And they can also lower it. So in Shiva's case, before the primary, he was leading in all the polls 60-40 against his GOP opponent, is the designated loser that they want to go put up and so to go and lose against the Democrat, because the GOP the neocons are trying to sabotage the America First movement. That's been shown time and time again. But so Shiva, Dr. Shiva, had 60% of the vote, and then all of a sudden on the primary election day, he loses 60-40. The lesser known nobody GOP neocon loser gets 60% of the vote. So then he sued and he discovered that they were changing the vote so for him, he was getting 0.8% per vote and that guy was getting 1.2. That's how the vote flipped to be 60-40 the other way. And also the fact that the machines could be connected to the internet.
Well, so why do you suppose Fox News paid all that money to settle the case with Smartmatic Dominion?
Yeah. Well, first of all, there's people like Paul Ryan on the board of Fox News and other, they're almost completely run by, the rhinos, but they're neocons. That whole little group comes from the Bush people. So if you remember PNAC, Project for a New American Century, where Dick Cheney, they needed the warmongers, basically. They're globalist warmongers, and they pose as Republicans to try to get the right to support their evil proxy wars and the military industrial complex and Halliburton and so they're not America First. They're globalists, but they're not like Soros. Soros is like a left-wing globalist, but really they work together at the end of the day to subvert America's sovereignty.
So, what would you suggest? If you, I should ask, do you feel that the potential for cheating or the likelihood for cheating has been eliminated by the Republicans?
No, in the states where we control, the government, like Texas and some other, like Virginia, Florida, they've done a lot of work. I think Arizona too, in some places, where they've cleaned up the voter rolls. So they got like thousands and thousands of people that were not eligible to vote. In a lot of cases, dead people off of the voter rolls. But that's important too. But, people have to realize, like, the way election fraud has worked for a long time, if you got to look up Tammany Hall. So Tammany Hall was
In New York City.
I think it was, New York City, and I think Chicago as well, where they were stealing votes back in like late 1800s, early 1900s. Yeah. So this system of installing the people, the big money interests, and the way that they can control elections has existed for a long time. So in many ways, machines were meant to make that easier to do with less of a paper trail.
With the mail-in votes,
Yeah.
with the mail-in voting now, voting in illegals' names, illegal aliens' names, or in dead people who have moved, what would you suggest if it doesn't match what the exit polls come out with? What would you suggest that Americans do differently than last time?
Yeah, no, doing another. Okay. Doing a January 6th type thing. The spirit behind it is valid, but it's not effective. So what it has to be, so this alternate electors thing, they try to criminalize it now against Trump, but that happened before in I think it was Grover Cleveland. But I forget, in 1876 election, there was alternate electors and they were accepted, because the way that, the way the Constitution is written, it's whoever the state legislature decides are the electors. They don't have to have, there's no constitutional, mandate that there has to be a popular vote. That's just what most states do. All the states have done it's their decision. So they do that, but they don't have to. Whoever they decide is the electors, those are valid electors. That's not a crime to do that. That's exactly what the Constitution says. We don't have a popular vote, direct democracy. We have a representative government. So people need to realize that having alternate electors. Sorry.
Do you think that they were honking because they couldn't get through the intersection?
They were both. Yeah, they were also waving at us. So they were supporting Trump as well. Yeah.
The fighters definitely support Trump.
But yeah, I think go through all the constitutional legal processes that we can do to ensure the integrity of an election, but don't fight cops. The cops are on our side. Keep them on our side, and have them, if we have to legally arrest people. We need the police to go out and arrest people who commit election fraud. So,
she pretty much covered it all. I mean, we just have to stay peaceful and be smart. Don't overreact. Just let the law do its thing, and get the lawyers involved. Get involved as peacefully as you can, and just make sure that we do this the right way, because we're not gonna. A lot of people got caught up on January 6th, and it was definitely a trap meant to get us enraged. And, we were pissed off for good reasons, but you can't let that anger overtake you. You know what I mean? We gotta be the good guys. We can't, they baited us into becoming as bad as Antifa, and we can't give them that. We can't let that happen again. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we just gotta pray that, people have the common sense to do this the right way. If it were to happen again, we can't throw away our democratic process. We have to believe in our country and believe that, there are good people in our government and there are lawyers, and let them do the job. You know what I mean? Like, I know a lot of people have this spirit of like 1776 and, You know, we do have a tyrannical government that it is our responsibility to overthrow it, but there are peaceful solutions to getting that done and to get rid of the tyrants in our government and keep our government, you know, good. Keep the good people and what we have, you know.
But you don't mean overthrow the government. You mean just
I mean, overthrow the tyrants. You know, I'm not saying like overthrow the Constitution. I'm saying like get rid of the tyrants that are in the government.
You don't mean overthrow, do you? You mean using the system?
Yeah, use the system to overthrow the tyrant bureaucracy in our government, the lobbyists, the big corporations, all the people who try to control our democracy. You know, they're the criminals, not us. You know what I mean? We're just trying to get the criminals. You know, we're trying to get rid of the criminals. It's that simple. You know what I mean? We have a duty as Americans, like we are the government.
It's in the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
So the Declaration of Independence says, when a government becomes tyrannical, it's the right and the duty of the people to it says overthrow. I think it says overthrow, but it says basically to remove the tyrants in government and establish a just government for themselves. And that's what the whole spirit of America is. So my thought on that is like, if the government doesn't want to, the people to think that they have a right over them, like we have the power over them to fire them and tell them what they can do as opposed to them telling us what to do. If they don't like that, then get rid of the Declaration of Independence and get rid of the Constitution and let's not teach anybody about it anymore because that is what it says. It says that we the people are in power. A just government derives its consent from the power of the governed, or from the consent, a just government derives its power from the consent of the governed.
Of the governed.
Yes, the people that are, we the people, we are the ones, if you're an unjust government, we decide that, not you guys don't just decide it for yourselves and impose it. Like in my trial, for example, it was the craziest thing that I heard was said. The prosecution, when they're making their case, they tell the judge, they're like, he thought he could come to our city and do this and that and this and that. And I didn't say it, but I don't want to interrupt them, but it's like, ma'am, it's our city. First of all, we pay your salary and her salary and the bailiff. Everybody here you guys work for us. It's not your city. It's our city. So it's just crazy that they actually have that mentality, these bureaucrats, that they own us. They own us, which is crazy, like insane. And they don't. They need to know that they don't.
Yeah.
So
for us.
So mass protest is good. Like imagine instead of 1 million people, but it was like 10, 20, 30 million people all gathering, even just by the fact of gathering and protesting, that terrifies the tyrants. You don't have to get violent. You just have to show them that their abuse is not working and you're going to go out and vote them out of power and sue them. Yeah, but sue them as much as you can.
Look, the Republicans couldn't even, muster, protests, outside your jails when you were in D.C. They could have been protesting outside every day. There were people who felt this way, and the Republicans didn't organize it. They distanced themselves. Wasn't it rare for you to have protesters on your behalf outside the jails?
Right. So the D.C. jail has a 24-hour vigil, 24/7. That's run by Mickey Withoft and Nicole Reffitt and a couple of other people. Tammy. They are grassroots people. Like it's actually Babbitt's mom, Mickey, and a couple like other people that are families of J6'ers. They have a permanent vigil outside the DC jail, but it's not that many people. And and only Marjorie Taylor Greene and I think Matt Gaetz and a couple of others ever like support them at all. Like you said, the majority of the Republican Party like distances themselves from us, which is horrible. But when it was the other way around, remember during the George Floyd riots, which were unjustified completely.
Sure.
You had Kamala Harris, who's the presidential candidate now, saying, keep going. They should not stop. And then she was bailing out rioters from with the Minnesota Freedom Fund. So on their side, and it wasn't just that. It was, Maxine Waters, AOC, like all the biggest stars in the Democrat Party were super they were super encouraging of the riots. So what they ran cover for their rioters saying these are peaceful protests. We have people on our side saying, the J6'ers are terrorists. I don't want to associate with them, like Republicans in Congress, which is like, how much of a coward are you? Like, this is the one time that Republicans actually stood up and did something, and you, disavow us and say that we're terrorists. Nobody was charged with terrorism. We're not charged with insurrection. Yet we have supposedly our own, Republicans treating us worse than Democrats in many cases. Like, okay, take a look at the Fisher case, the one that was overturned in the Supreme Court. You had Amy Coney Barrett, neocon, voted against us. She wrote her opinion against the J6'ers to not overturn the Fisher case. Yet Ketanji Brown Jackson, of all people, the Biden appointee to the Supreme Court, KBJ, she sided with us and she concurred in the opinion to overturn the 1512 charge. Isn't that insane? Yeah, I do. Of course, I give her a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, I think Ketanji, she's doing her job, and she did her job at least on that decision. And maybe she knows that Trump is going to win. So maybe, yeah, I think a lot of people can tell already now who's going to win. I think even Kamala herself knows that she's going to lose. If you look at her tone, she's panicking. She's already kind of taking the demeanor of a loser. And it's clear. They may have to cheat, but if they do, we're just going to act, peacefully and legally, and, we'll get the lawyers on this, because that is the only way we can actually get things done in America,
So this is part of the Beverly Hills Freedom Rally. Just happens to be in Westwood today. There were a couple of former Beverly Hills ralliers from 2020 who got arrested and imprisoned. You're one of them. Who else?
David Dempsey. He's a really cool guy. I actually learned through him. Oh, you got it? Yeah, I actually learned through him that the local Antifa leader, Chad Loader, was charged with lewd and lascivious acts with a minor under 14. And then the charges were dropped, and he became a cybersecurity expert, and he started leading Antifa groups. So I'm like 99% sure he's a Fed. He works with the Feds. That's how he was able to get that pedophilia charge dropped. He's a total scumbag, doxes people on Twitter and gets people to try to go after them and harass them. But yeah, so that David Dempsey is a really cool guy, hilarious. He has a great Trump impression. You'll probably see videos of that coming out, the same way that our podcast came out, the We Are Good Men podcast that we did in jail. We recorded also like a lot of antics that were going on in jail. People had evidence laptops that they were given to fight their case, and those laptops had cameras on them. So we were able to record things. And so yeah, David Dempsey was arrested. He was from the Beverly Hills rally. We also had Eric Christie. He always wears a shirt like that says, fags for Trump. Is he gay? Yeah, he's a gay guy, but he's like super aggressive pro-Trump, and he's hilarious. Also, so Eric Christie's a great guy. Completely didn't deserve to be charged at all. And DJ, my co-defendant, DJ Rodriguez, is also from, I met him here at the Beverly Hills Freedom Rally. And there's another guy named, he called himself Jeff to us, but it turns out his real name is, Paul Pelosic.
Which sounds like a fake name.
Yeah,
sounds like a made up
crazy.
Behind the camera here.
Yeah.
But he was an agitator. So his name was redacted in my trial. It only came out when an FBI agent said it at trial, and they haven't been able to find him, supposedly.
Were there protesters from other states also who got arrested? Who came from, it wasn't the Beverly Hills rally. You didn't have your own, it wasn't like a caucus at a convention.
Right. No.
You came on your own.
Yeah, we were all, mostly just wanted to go see Trump speak, and it was his idea again to walk to the Capitol. So most of us were unarmed. So there were a lot of people that were charged with like violent charges or attacking the police and stuff, or with weapons. There's a guy who threw a drawer at the police line and it didn't actually hit any police, and he was charged with attacking with an armed and dangerous weapon or whatever. Which is crazy.
And I want to say something about so Trump did say let's walk to the Capitol peacefully and patriotically, but I don't think it was actually his idea, because there were groups of people who were already planning, allegedly, they're saying that there were groups of people who were already planning something. I'm not sure exactly what they were planning, but I think that Trump knew that they were going, and that's why he said peacefully and patriotically. He even sent us a text in the morning, telling everybody, let's be peaceful. Let's not bring any weapons to the Capitol and all.
Morning before it happened?
No, on the morning of the rally.
Morning before it happened, not after.
No, the morning that it happened.
Yeah.
Before it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was telling people be peaceful, don't bring any weapons. And so that's funny that hasn't gotten any coverage right there, because that would basically prove that he didn't want any of the violence to happen. He texted us, like we all got the text in the morning. Oh, look, we got a text from Trump, because there was some kind of emergency hotline or something that he had set up, weeks before January 6th, so he could actually get in contact with his supporters. And a lot of people signed up for that. And so we all got the alert, like it's like an emergency alert system, like the emergency broadcast system. And so he was able to send us texts directly, and he was telling us, like, don't bring weapons. And I'm just shocked that hasn't been covered. Nobody talks about it in the media. But that's pretty much evidence right there that he was telling people not to bring weapons, not to get angry, just be peaceful, way ahead of everything. And he reiterated that message in his speech, be peaceful and patriotic, because he knew people were already going to the Capitol.
I was mentioning before, I forgot to say it, but so one of the people that I don't know if they're feds or not, but the Sunrise Movement, again, in that channel that I mentioned, the Andrew Jackson channel, if you look on there, you'll see there's a video that shows that the Sunrise Movement planning exactly the type of infiltration and violence that you see at January 6th was you see them planning it in their little Zoom chats. Like, oh, we need to, we're going to have to wear Trump gear to blend in. We want to block off the entrances. Contact me if you want to, learn how to do this and that and this and that. Like, so they had their whole little, it's called the Sunrise Movement. So there's definitely a partnership between Antifa type groups and the feds, which has been going on ever since Occupy Wall Street, like I mentioned.
Do you think the feds were giving Antifa direction?
Yeah, so I think that's how the organizational structure seems to work. They have like useful idiot, true believers that are at the foot soldier level, and then their organizers are actually connected up with the FBI.
How important was it?
People like Chad Loader.
How do we walk across?
Yeah.
You can stand with your gente.
What was the question? Sorry.
So how important was the support of your gal friend, your lady friend?
Oh, yeah. So my girlfriend, Kaylin, yeah, she did so much. Like, I would be lost without her, really. Like, she did so much to keep my name alive and get people to continue supporting me. And she herself, did so much to, for when I was in jail, as far as commissary coming to visit me, calling into the prison, making sure, this and that, all this kind of different stuff was, in place. For example, talking to them about, when I was supposed to be released, how's that going to work? Just being my ride or die, basically. And so I'm probably going to, marry her. If you if you want a man to be loyal to you, ladies, be loyal to them, and you'll see that it will pay off in the end.
Amen to that.
Did you propose to her while you were in jail?
No, I haven't proposed to her yet. I want to get back on my feet, really, financially, and then, so I can get her a nice ring and have a nice wedding and a nice honeymoon. And so I'll get there soon, probably within next year. I'll propose to her. Yeah.
Did you expect more support from the Beverly Hills Freedom Rally than you got?
No, I think they did the best they could. There was one time where I called in, when I was in the DC jail, we could actually call in and to protests and stuff. So I called in and I gave a speech from the jail at the Beverly Hills rally. No, they definitely supported me. A lot of people donated to my Give Send Go, which is Help Free Edward Battalion. Now I'm free now, but I'm in debt for tens of thousands in legal fees. So if you could contribute, that would be wonderful. It's a Give Send Go / Help Free Edward Battalion. Yeah, and you can also watch our podcast with me and John Mellis. This is the We Are Good Men podcast on Rumble, and you'll see some very cool, interesting interviews there from directly from the DC jail with other J6'ers and hear their life stories and their experiences.
It's on the website.
Yeah, you can find it through you can find my Give Send Go through the podcast and vice versa. So if you, yeah.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, sir.
Hang out with the mic down.
All right.
Stand together.